Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of The Daily Grind. You already know, pouring you up a nice hot cup of joe. Gonna get your day out to a bright and beautiful start. I'm gonna take off my glasses, but I'm like tickled because as soon as I started the video, we got a little ding dong. I don't know, it gives that today could certainly be a day of like drop ins. These could be messages, it could be unexpected news, information, results. What's interesting for those of you who are not with us on Patreon, it's linked below and I suggest you join. We're talking about connecting with the angels and the heavens and you literally manifesting as above, so below. And I've got some things here that you guys know I'm heavy on the synchronicities, right? So when it aligns, it simply aligns, and you just gotta let it be. You just gotta let it line up the way that it does. So a couple of things that I want to talk about. The bottom of this deck, where I finish my shuffle, is summer, summer, summertime, right? Bask in joy and light. And I love this. Archangel Michael says your prayers are being answered. And for those of you who have watched the video about the angelic order that we discussed, I'm taking that as a direct response, as letting me know, hey, you're tapping in, right? You're tapping in. If you haven't joined us on Patreon, oh my gosh, you are missing out on quite some sweet treats there. I just heard, and there will be much more to come. So, hey, that sounds a little bit ominous. Like for some of you, this could certainly be in your existence. There are some beautiful things that are on the horizon. I do feel an energy of divine flow. Some of you are in a position where you're literally taking your power back in whatever circumstance it is that you're dealing with. You are recognizing that you have the power, that you have the authority, and in that you're simply allowing what feels like your God glow to lead you. And I love that for you because I feel like you so deserve that. Okay, very, very much so. Let's get into excuse me, today's messages, okay? Oh no, I heard Miriam when I said that today, baby. Maybe some of you are cooking, doing some recipes, getting some stuff moving, right? Getting a move on some things. I have to say, not getting into the 7-day energy, but I certainly feel it. And it feels like it's going to be a busy time ahead. Let's start with this. What's interesting is that at the end of this shuffle, we have what? Unexpected income. So when I'm talking about a drop in, right? Maybe you're making some money, 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 right? Maybe that young moolah, baby, right? I love it. I absolutely do. Now I'm trying to find a rune, and I think that was actually it. I probably should have done it before because Spirit put this particular rune on my mind, and I felt led to share it with you. Again, if you're not on the Patreon, look, there's free membership there, and I put a post up that's actually pinned the other day that talks about the general history of runes. And it was because I'm familiar with them, but I don't have them all memorized, which is why I don't do readings with them. So perhaps we're going to be digging into that, a new journey. What I find is that whenever I start to read something different, even a new deck, and maybe this is inspiring for some of you, it connects me or taps me into a different energy, another shade of gray, if you will, another perspective to be able to see, to depict life through, and also remembering by A Course in Miracles. For those of you who haven't joined us, I'm telling you, you got a little bit time to try to catch up, right? We're taking a mini break and we're going to get back to it. But for those of you who are in A Course in Miracles, we know that the body is your vehicle that is used to be able to communicate with spirit in this realm. And so if you see that, then every new tool it is that you get is something else that you can use in order for your communication portal, if you will, or your communication vehicle or vessel to be able to depict, to transpose, to translate, the messages that are being received from spirit. So I'm always grateful to be able to expand on that in another way. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, runes. And this is the one, spirit has actually woken me out of my sleep on multiple days with this particular rune, and that's why I posted that article. I'll probably do one on this one as well, but why not have a video, right? Easy for you to just easy listening, right? Unless you don't like the sound of my voice, right? Anyway, here we have Fehu, okay? Fehu. This is actually rune number 1. So I guess if we wanted to connect it, 1 in the tarot, obviously skipping the fool, would be Le Magician, okay? And this particular rune refers to livestock. We've had what little bird flu, right? Little concern in our livestock, right? These can even be in our lives, right? In our stock, in our livestock. When you hear references to livestock, you also hear like God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. These references are references to like wealth, inheritance, land, because if you have livestock, and especially if you have a lot of livestock, then it's an indication of wealth, because you have to have land for them to roam. You have to have a place for them to be able to graze. If they're going to be healthy, they have to have had vegetation and things to eat on in order to have that nice young thick piece of meat, okay? So for some of you, this could have to do with health, right? Time period associated is June 29th through July 13th. The time, 12:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m. to 1:29 p.m. Keywords here: trust, recovery. Oh, I feel that so deeply. Recovery, gain, trade, offspring, something hidden comes to light, evolution, also evasion, and beware of frauds, okay? So this is like opportunity is brimming. You have opportunities to make some gains, to recover some things that have been lost. I'm also getting an energy of like trading like destiny, where if it's almost, I hear like what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it around for your good. I feel like there are some situations like that you have an opportunity to bring evolution to. But Spirit, I do feel that beware of frauds is there, because obviously in that, everything that appears, right? Going back to that lens with which we view things, all that appears, right, in your rearview mirror is not as it seems, okay? So I do feel that this can even be a time that's very telling of that. But I also feel like spiritual discernment has you picking up on discerning or realizing that in some way, okay? I don't know what this, my eyes are being drawn to this unexpected income card. So let's start with this particular deck and get our young cards, right? So we can move on with our day. Again, if you haven't joined the Patreon, we're going to go into tarot, and we will expound upon these particular messages when we dive into the tarot. So hope that you guys will join us there if you have not. Otherwise, go ahead and like the video for me, share and subscribe, and be sure to check us out on other streaming platforms, okay? Something makes me feel like the time that you're embarking in is showing you the privilege that you have. I feel, I feel a turning point. I felt that like all on my left side, I felt confirmation. And let me explain what it is and I'm picking up on. So what if everything that you went through that was bad, or that felt bad, right, unpleasant, being in a position where you lack, or you need, or you didn't have, right, support? I don't have answers. I don't have the information. I don't have, maybe it's a knowledge resource, something of that, the capacity, maybe physical health, strength, right, buying capital, buy-in, support. What if every situation like that you perceived as a blessing, because you would have never been led to seek answers and find what it is that you found from those answers had you not been in that position? And then realizing that, and this is where I think when you hear in the Bible, I want to say it was the Apostle Paul who would talk about how it was a good thing that he was afflicted. Perhaps it is by virtue of finding the cure. Had I never gotten sick, excuse me, confirmation sneeze. Spirit, is that you communicating with my body? But seriously, if we would be more mindful of our responses. But if we had never been in the situations that we've been in, we never would have learned in order to free ourselves, but also to be able to have like the beautiful experience of setting others free. So that's just something to kind of ponder on. If that, if recovering is the joy and the detriment is like, because what I got back or what I gained was so much more than what I lost. Bottom of the deck is great fortune. I love it. I love it. I love it. So great fortune. And that's what I feel. I don't know why I feel like that's what Spirit is saying in one way or another today is, and sometimes this can be like missing the lesson, right? And constantly getting the short end of the stick. I just heard, but then winning the stick, whatever that looks like, right? Realizing the lesson and getting the reward on the other side is what this feels like. Great fortune. And the child is here. And I feel like it feels like the humility of a child, right? Let's look at this in a number of ways. We got a little time, right? If you look at the humility of a child, right? Card number 18, sometimes this is even when we face a fear, right? I think about maybe having an altercation with someone, a disagreement with someone, and maybe they take a stance that you're not expecting or anticipating that they will take. But you have the humility of a child enough to, I see her holding this rabbit, right? So it's almost like, the kid being mean and, you know, would you like to share my toy? And not necessarily like extending, if you're on A Course in Miracles, you already know that's juicy, but that's what I feel like the humility of a child is enough to be the extension of grace. So seeing maybe someone who's perhaps in denial, perhaps they are in their feelings about something, and you taking the perspective or the stance of the inner child that extends to them the opportunity to share in the brotherhood, to share in the wealth, to share in oneness, sonship, right? This could even be information, realizing someone doesn't know, and taking the stance of the humility of a child to be able to tell or talk to them about something that they're not aware of, and extend that to them, as opposed to, no, you idiot, you know what I mean? Or, what can be like condemnation, further creating separation when you see their miscreation, restoring to wholeness. Again, it's recovery. And something makes me feel like you're doing that in one way or another. I like it. I like this energy because I feel like it's making an impression, and I feel it's leading to moments that can be memorialized. This resonates. There's a lamb, which really, in terms of pairing that nature, right, with a child, lamb and a child would be synonymous, because a child is that innocent, that gentle, that meek, right? A lamb is defenseless, right? It's merely growing, right? It's tender. Since maybe some of you are eating lamb, right? Enjoy young veal, okay? But I feel this energy of, you know, I love this lamb. The lamb is the bottom of the deck, going with great fortune. So I feel like value in what could be like tenderness, gentleness, sensitivity, which could be like handling with kid gloves a situation, a circumstance, or just even being sensitive to yourself and your own need when you need to be handled, tenderly, when you need to be handled with kid gloves, when you are sensitive, and maybe faced with a shadow space. And sometimes that can be, saying no, right? Sometimes that can be, denying or turning away and being at a crossroads where you feel a little bit vulnerable in doing so, or there's something maybe that taps into your inner child, but facing that fear, because the lamb also knows that it's protected. It's not living in fear. It recognizes that it's taken care of. So it lives in that innocence, or owns that innocence. And it is, with the great fortune card, it's very valuable. I see the tarantula, okay? which this is crossroads energy. Something could be significant about Monday. You already know Monday is that day. Of crossroads energy. I'm also getting where this could certainly create a turning point in your circumstance. This could also be opening of roads of some sort, closing of roads maybe that didn't need to be gone. Thank God we're not going that path. Thank God we are going this particular path. And I feel like it all has to do with being sensitive, really listening to the inner child, allowing it to illuminate, and with the sun, simply trusting despite what could even be a little bit of apprehension, what could be a little bit of sensitivity to what could be vulnerabilities. But I see here the bottom of the deck is this young sage, right? So maybe you're connecting with Sagittarius energy, but I love these two working in tandem. The child and the sage, the least of these, the eldest of these. Excuse me. It gives a well-rounded perspective that is healed enough in the inner child to basically embrace this level of simplicity, but is also experienced enough as a sage to be devoted and committed to that voice because you realize it's no longer ignorance. This is the valued place that is, I don't know why I'm getting a very strong energy of temperance, but it's like a sacred in between that, excuse me, y'all, is literally perfect balance. That is like the optimal life, the optimal perspective. This is your gold, right? Your inner gold that you're achieving when you achieve this balance between the child and the sage. So that's what I feel. What is the card that came out? Let's look at it again. Going back to Fehu, revisiting that rune that we talked about. And in Fehu, really, again, getting back to our livestock, recovery, gain. Yes, I lost. Yes, beware of frauds. I may have given in to the fraud. I may have been the fraud, but this is me getting back or recovering. Maybe it is even aspects of yourself. I hear Jan say, find your way back. And so I feel like you're finding your way back to the value, the gold, the fortune that is you. And it's a combination of you being sensitive to your healed, meek, tender, gentle inner child that is definitely able to pick up on what is this also deeply sensed sage wisdom that you have. So when at a crossroads, you are able, and it's like, again, tapping into A Course in Miracles. I hope you guys see how all these things that we've been studying, we've simply been led to, because seeing how this is basically demonstrating the golden spot is you remembering. You're remembering what you know. You're remembering that this feeling is not one that you need to be afraid of. You're remembering that this is an aspect of wisdom that's valuable to you because you now know what direction or path to go or to take. I feel like you just sense that the card that came out is winter. Take care of your needs. So perhaps for some of you, this is wisdom to know, oh, I need to be taken care of, okay? And wisdom to know when there's something that you deserve, right? I feel like, perhaps that is, and sometimes this is being mindful, right? Someone who has a tendency towards narcissism has a tendency to, when they feel this type of way, to only take care of themselves and to second guess taking care of others. Someone who tends towards being empathetic usually has a likelihood or a high tendency to take care of others and usually questions taking care of themselves. So knowing who you are, I feel like you're being asked to be sensitive to what your tendency is towards. And with winter, make sure you're taking care of your needs. And that's the needs that your inner child is depicting. If your inner child is saying, I'm always taking care of others. I need to take care of myself. This is where you have the wisdom to do so. If your inner child is saying, I'm always taking care of myself, it's time for me to take care of others. This is a fork in the road. It's a turning point. I can sense that I need to do so. Let me go ahead and do that. And I feel like you're making the right decision. Again, livestock, and it's recovering. Sometimes this is recovering relationships, right? That could have been lost ties or bonds, because you never know how it could be money, it could be opportunities, resources, because sometimes we don't realize how, because of the fact that this energy is imbalanced, if we're going the wrong direction, it can shut off our energetic flow or connection to things that are actually valuable to us, people that are valuable to us, assets, interests, benefits, things of that nature, okay? Recognize the signs from above is what we see here on this card. Okay, so I do feel like Spirit is dropping you young gems. Okay, angels are sending you messages now, but you're too distracted to notice. Stay alert and open to divine guidance. Card number 26. Okay, so Spirit is just reminding you, right? Don't get off track. Don't get distracted. Stay focused. Spirit says what? 41. Your loved ones are safe. Okay. I kind of get this. This obviously could be people, but sometimes it's much deeper than that. The things that you love. Because sometimes when we're at a turning point or a crossroads, what we have concern about are what could be like things, right? What about this? Is this going to fall away? It can be like, is my phone going to get cut off? Are my lights going to get cut off? Those things that you love. I love having electricity, right? I love, and because it doesn't have to, obviously, I'm making a connection to things because we can all relate. But sometimes these are the things that allow you to show love, is really what I'm getting at. So being concerned about different things, let go of your fear and worry for your loved ones. And again, these are just the things, this, like, oh, this is something that and it doesn't have to be like, I know it seems, because I'm naming materials, it can seem materialistic, but sometimes these are things that speak to what that inner child, to your heart, right? This is something that I love doing. If this were to happen, I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. This says, I am looking after them. So just know, Spirit is saying, I'm showing you all the signs. I'm looking after your loved ones. Let go of any fear, worry, concern that you might have about those things. Maybe that make you feel vulnerable, make you feel a little bit tender, a little bit sensitive. Yeah, I hear I'm wanting to yell, but as you guys can hear, I'm a little bit congested, so definitely don't need to not yell, but all in his hands. I put it all in his hands. So I feel like you're putting it all in God's hands and allowing God to take care of that. I can't lie. I can't wait to check into the 7-day messages. So if you haven't joined the Patreon, I don't know what you're waiting for. You should go ahead and do that now. But we're going to check in. We're going to do an extended message with the tarot on Patreon. Join us, linked below. I love you guys. Check out our other streaming platforms, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.